I got to get to this because I really think this is interesting. And I'm going to warn you, I'm going to try to explain somewhat of a difficult to explain story. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So I want to try and make it as concise as possible. But, who knows if I'm going to get around to doing that in an appropriate and manageable fashion. California's Supreme Court issued a new ruling on their three strikes law. If you don't know anything about the three strikes rule, California, to its credit, this actually makes some sense. If you commit and convicted of 3 either violent or serious felonies, you automatically get sentenced to 25 years to life. In other words, if you do too many of these things, 3 violent felonies, we don't really need you in society anymore. Just go off to the prison and just rot there until you're no longer. That makes sense. Okay. So, if you're a gang member, the chances of you getting a strike in that 3 strikes policy goes up because of the enhancements to your crime. If you committed or attempted murder, the chances that you get a strike go up because you're a part of the gang. Well, the California Supreme Court recently ruled that a law that was instituted in 2021, which raised the burden of proof to prove that somebody was in a gang, well, that meant that gang members that were convicted prior to that, but their issue was still on appeal, might have a strike be taken away. Let me try and simplify that just a little bit more. If you were issued a strike because you were a gang member, the California Supreme Court basically said, according to this new 2021 law, is, well, we're not entirely sure if you were a gang member because now the burden of proof is higher, and therefore you might have to eliminate one of those strikes, again, on those gang members who committed and were convicted of violent felonies. I hope that makes sense. I hope there was a decent job of explaining that. The bottom line here is, though, California continuing the trajectory of being completely soft on crime. I wonder how that's going to work out for the formerly Golden State. Let's bring in our panel. Kristen Sokoloff is a conservative commentator, and Bo Robinson is a comedian and also commentator, among many other things. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Kristen, I want to start with you here. California has hit a lot of blowback, especially from around the country, especially with one Governor Newsom and his presidential hopes, saying, hey, you guys have just not prosecuted crime in the last decade or so, and it seems to be a crime-ridden hellhole. Are you going to do anything to fix that? And it seems like the California legislature and the Supreme Court says, nope, it's fine. We're not going to give gangbangers strikes at all. What are your thoughts looking in on the messed up laboratory of democracy that is California?
Oh my gosh. So basically with what you're talking about, this guy could be dripping in gang colors, head to toe bandanas, flashing gang signs in every picture on Facebook. I learned one in 8th grade. I was showing Glenn earlier. But anyways, that's not enough anymore. We're needing at this point a notarized profit loss statement from the gang's accountant before we can call it gang related and prove that the gang financially benefited. That is one of the changes made.
Yeah, that is, I thank you for summing that up so well, because there's a lot of stuff to condense in there, but yeah, that's effectively what it is. You really just need a notarized signature from the gang member saying, I am in this gang. That's effectively what you need. Bo,
seriously,
trajectory wise, you think this is going to work out well for California, kind of raising the standards to hit that 3 strikes rule and having more violent criminals out on the street?
I think I have a follow-up question to that. Is anything working out for California right now? They might as well call these strikes balls, because after 3 or 4, they're letting these guys walk. You know what I mean? I feel bad for the gangs. These guys take a long time to build up these rap sheets, and slowly they're just erasing all of the crimes they've ever done. I'm worried about California. I'm worried for you, Joe Bob. I'm worried for me. I'm worried for everybody in California right now, because it seems like crime is on the uprise and they fail to report it. So
yeah, I'm not going to necessarily condone feeling bad for the gangs, but at the same time, I understand your point. The street cred in the jail goes down like, hey, you hear Ruben got a strike knocked off? Man, that guy's not as cool anymore. That's a fair point. That actually might happen in some California prisons.
Can you imagine Ruben's like, I worked hard at this. Yeah.
Yeah,